Hello and welcome to the Match Slip Podcast. My name is Frank Angeloni, and this is the official relaunch of the Match Slip Podcast. With this relaunch comes a new direction where I'll be interviewing local game store owners throughout the United States. For the inaugural launch of the podcast, we have Christopher Fitzpatrick from the Meta Gaming and Esports joining us. The Meta is located in St. James, New York, and hosts multiple TCG tournaments as well as LAN tournaments. And without further ado, let's get into the show. So Chris, thanks for coming on the show today. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
No problem. So why don't you tell us a little bit about why you decided to start and pretty much launch a game store? I know you have multiple partners that you work with, and what your reason for getting into that gaming industry, what drew you to it?
Geez, that's a super open-ended question. What drew it? So, I mean, the idea of the Meta started off originally as a LAN center exclusively. When I had first come up with the idea, I think around like 2016, I was playing League, every night with my partner Ryan, my business partner Ryan at the time. We were both working at Starbucks. And I was like, hey man, why can't we open a shop where we can just have customers that come in and, pay to play League of Legends with us? And he's like, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. People just have their own computers at home. And I was like, yeah, I know. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, we all have our computers at home, so might as well just do there. And then we were in Boston for some professional League of Legends event, and we had some time to kill before we went to the stadium, and we actually found a LAN center that was there. And we walked in, and I gave him a little nudge on the arm. I was like, see? And he's like, yeah, wow, actually, it was packed. It was just people were playing, console games. They were playing PCs. They were playing League. There was a little kitchen. There were people hanging out, just enjoying themselves. And I was like, wow, this is cool. This is what I had originally imagined. So, we got home, and we really started to brainstorm and crunch the numbers, and it was and we took it from there. And then obviously, Frank, what the Meta as is wildly different from what the Meta originally started off with. We went through so many different trials and tribulations through the quarantine, and rebranding and redeveloping ourselves. And obviously, we are now more of a TCG card shop and tournament venue rather than a LAN center. Over the years, I've just been breaking down computers and tables to add more space for TCG play area, just because the demand wasn't really there. And it's really unfortunate because the whole esports industry kind of seems like it's falling apart. And But without going into that, that's basically how the Meta started.
So what would you say was the hardest part of starting in the beginning? I would imagine the cost to start up a business, to open a retail store, was probably one of the most difficult, but I'll let you, explain more about that. That was just my initial thought from somebody who hasn't done something of this nature out of curiosity.
No, it's it's the cost is obviously, is probably the biggest hurdle to get over. But, without being too, rude to here's how it happened. We went through the SBA, which is the Small Business Association. Mm-hmm. And if for those who don't know, it's basically just a bunch of retired old dudes who like to help see their hometowns thrive by just helping business grow and start in there. But explaining in the esports industry to a bunch of old dudes, that was the hardest part.
Yeah.
they were like, what do they play, solitaire? I was just like, oh my god, no.
hard to explain when they haven't like lived through it themselves.
Exactly. You know, we made a whole presentation, a report. I, brought my laptop. I showed them YouTube videos of what esports looks like, and they were like, "We don't get it." And I was just like, "What do I have to do to explain this to you? It's just they hop the computer, they play, they win money. It's an awesome time." And they're like, "Okay, whatever." So we got our loan through them, but getting them on board was like the weirdest thing ever.
I can imagine the challenge that must have been. It's kind of like, explaining computers to, somebody who's not very technical.
Yeah. Yep. Another challenging thing was finding locations. We went through like 26 different locations around the island to look at, and I think like the second to last one was the one that we ended up on. So like we spent a good like 4 months just like going around, like we obviously didn't do it day after day because we all had our jobs, but like it took that long of just what we had, with our free time to be able to lock down a location. That was pretty aggravating because like after like the 10th location, it became like super discouraging. We're like, no, and then you just kept sticking it with it, and I finally found the one that worked.
And this wasn't your first location, right? I remember talking to Mike at the store, and he had mentioned that you guys are originally out in Nassau County at the time.
No. So Michael Bombard owned Aeon Gaming, which was a tournament venue for like primarily Super Smash Brothers. It was just like a warehouse.
Okay.
That was his own location in Deer Park.
Oh, I
now,
see.
what had happened was 2 months before quarantine, he got shut down. There was like some zoning thing that he was unaware of. The fire marshal came in, and not even to his own fault. Like his neighbor was like, it was like some clothes retailer or something like that. They had some type of fire. It wasn't even anything. It was just like a little bit of smoke. And the fire marshal came, and then she checked out the whole area. She came and checked the whole strip, and she's like, what's going on here? So Face got shut down from like a super unfortunate technicality.
Oh, geez.
And yeah, totally. And so he had a giant community and just no home. Like they just like weren't allowed to go back to there. And he's like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. So, he met up with us. We had worked with him prior in the past, and we're like, why don't you just start running your events here and just start running your tournaments here, and we'll just split the cost. And he's like, all right. And then quarantine happened, and then nothing, so nothing happened. We were all shut down.
Right.
But over the quarantine of like, what was it, 3 months that we were shut down for? So that was like March to like end of May into June. We kind of like rebranded ourselves all as one team. And then when we reopened, we just kind of like hit the ground running from there, doing cards and Smash and computers, like best of both worlds.
Definitely.
It kind of worked. Yeah.
Yeah, how it all came together like that. Yeah, I didn't realize that. I thought actually at the time you were working with Mike back when he had his store in Deer Park. I didn't realize that it was a conglomeration of everything coming together. It just so happened, with the circumstances, that it kind of was like, it seems like a blessing in disguise almost with how you guys all came together to be able to do this.
Yeah, it was odd. It was odd of how smoothly it worked,
Mm-hmm. Without a doubt. And so with the way the store is now today, from my time coming to the store, which I've enjoyed tremendously, you guys run a lot of events, and I haven't seen a store hold as many events and get the turnouts that you guys get on top of it. What do you think brought all that together? Like how long of a process was that to build up, like from the ground up, essentially? With
which kind of events? Because like we run a lot of different stuff.
Sure. So if we do, let's take the TCG stuff.
Okay.
And like we could start with that in terms of how you got the turnout for the various formats for the various TCGs, whether it be Yu-Gi-Oh or Magic.
Let's see, how did it start? Let me try to rack my brain. So Face has been playing Magic in like all over Long Island since he was like a kid. So he's just kind of like ingrained in the community as a Magic player. And so he also did like card games at his store, like on and off. And so he already had like access to an existing community, if you will. And also when we first started doing cards, he knew a guy who was pretty vocal in the Commander scene as well for Magic. So he kind of like, he's like, hey, why don't you come play some Commander here? We have cards. And he's like, all right. So he got like 12 people like coming through weekly for Commander. And then once you get like sanctioned by like Wizards of the Coast to start running like Magic events, you kind of just promote it and people start coming. It kind of like fills itself. But Face just had a lot of friends in the community that were able to just like, I don't want to say follow him, but like he was able to access, if you will, you know. So like he came with just like a community like attached to him, which is like gravy, you know.
Definitely. I mean, because that's pretty much almost, I would imagine, came about through what you were mentioning earlier regarding how much he played from when he was younger. And I'm guessing a lot of those people he's kept in touch with that have he's kind of helped move over to now the store that you guys have.
Yeah, definitely. Face has definitely in his years of operating and running Aeon, definitely made a lot of good friends, definitely made a lot of allies that he was able to be like, hey, I'm over here now, you know, and then, they just showed up and subsequently met us, you know, and then we just try to do our best to make good business and treat people well. And apparently that's not something that's hard to come by in this industry, the card game scene. You know, for some reason, people just like don't like going to specific places around the island for very specific reasons. And I'm like, what? That's so crazy. Why would the owner say something like that? Or why would they run an event like that? You know, it just seems so weird. It boggles my mind when some people just like don't have like the customers or the players' best interests in mind, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was kind of blown, like just a kind gesture that you did towards me, just my very first time ever at the store, when the new Phyrexia, not new Phyrexia, that's a long time ago. The Phyrexia OLB1
hey man, I was playing during new Phyrexia.
Yeah. Yeah, I started playing during Mirrodin. We've talked about this in the store.
Yep.
I wish at the time, that was before I knew formats existed.
Totally. Meet Sam.
And I was like 17 years old, so I didn't even know that that formats were a thing, or that there were pre-releases and stuff like that. But yeah, when I came to the store for the Phyrexia OLB1 pre-release, I thought just your common courtesy of asking, you know, like, how do you think the event was run and everything like that. That, to be honest, I mean, that's before I know who you are as a person now, you know, before I really knew you. And I was just kind of blown away that just that little question of asking, like, you know, having the customer in mind like that and I'm not the type of person who even expects anything. And like that kind of just blew me away, that little gesture. And I could tell how you go out of your way, and Face does too, you guys know everybody's name, which I'm shocked that you guys remember.
That's a me thing.
Name.
That's actually a very me thing. I just happen to just appreciate and value when people call me, like, I prefer being called Christopher of Chris, and like that's just like a very little thing that I've come to just like adapt into my own processes of, you know, running my store. Like I appreciate being called Christopher. Maybe someone else would appreciate that. You know what I mean? Like, so yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's definitely something I took notice of right away. And I remember I was talking to my mom about, you know, from when I was young. She remembered me going to the game store all the time as a kid. Like when I first started driving when I was 17, you know, every Thursday I was at the game store after school. I would drive there, and every Saturday I was there from like noon in the afternoon till 8:30 at night, playing both Yu-Gi-Oh tournaments and Magic tournaments. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't think I can handle that anymore, but I told her, I was like, you know, the place I was going to previously, as we've spoken about at the store, I hadn't felt the connection to the store like I do with the Meta. And I told my mom, I said, this is the first time in a very long time that I actually want to actively go and play again. I've always loved Magic. I've always loved the game. But this was the first time that made me I said, yeah, I'm going to get out of my house and go do that. So it's a testament to what you guys are doing over there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. When we first started running Smash tournaments, and Face wasn't always there, we just axed the Smash kids. I was like, what are we doing wrong? How can we improve? Because if you go into the mindset knowing you don't have a clue of what to do, it really makes things so much easier. Because these guys just wanted to have a good time. They just wanted to play their game. They wanted to get better at the game, and they just straight up told us. They just told us what to do. It was just it made things so easy, and it made things actually fulfilling because they were having a good time, and they were telling us that they're like, yeah, no problem. You're like, oh yeah, maybe do this next time. Oh yeah, also you might want to pick up this equipment. This makes it easier to do the bracket. And we're like, okay. And the people just appreciated that so much, and they really paid us back just by being loyal.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm definitely loyal to you guys just from just that. Like I said, the initial first impression. I've seen it in the store of how the other players there engage with you guys, and it's really great to see. It's just it brings me back to when I was 17 again.
Mm-hmm.
So, I know you mentioned Smash tournaments and whatnot. So I've seen that going on in the store, and there's definitely huge turnouts for that as well. So if we just, for a little bit, we'll switch over to that and talk about how you manage to do both TCGs and video game tournaments. That's something I also blew me away when I first walked into the store. I never seen something of that scale. And a store of your size, it's pretty big. And I know Face his store was tremendous. He showed me pictures of it. So I'm kind of curious, with doing those tournaments on top of it, how do you guys balance all of that?
Yeah, well, first off, my store is, I wouldn't say big. It's definitely a very smaller scale. It's only 2,300 square feet. It's a retail size. It's a retail store size, but for something to do Smash, I wish it was bigger because a lot of times they just feel crammed in there, and that's always something I've always felt a little self-conscious of making sure that the guys had enough space, which they never. But how do we do tournaments for Smash while also doing TCG stuff? I mean, honestly, I think the answer is just scheduling. It's just trying to make sure that they don't overlap as much because the Smash tournaments usually can get loud with the PA that we have. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times card gamers want just a nice quiet time. But for Commander doesn't need a nice quiet time. Commander likes the energy. They like it loud. So Tuesday nights we run a Smash tournament. Friday nights we try to do Commander. But we started doing those on-demand drafts, but they don't really pick up. They only get 8 to 12 people at a time, so we don't really need to have quiet time for draft. Plus, it's Friday night, so people feel the energy. So it kind of works with it, if you will. And that's when we do our Smash tournaments, Tuesdays and Fridays. And after that, it really hasn't been an issue of running them at the same time or scheduling conflicts. It's just been can we run a big Magic event then? Oh no, we have a Smash tournament. Oh, can we run a Smash tournament then? No, we have a big Magic event. It's just all about scheduling.
Definitely. I mean, it's clear too. You guys are very on top of not only the scheduling but the communication, not only amongst yourselves as business owners, but also from the standpoint with the customer base too. I mean, whether it be, I know you guys use Discord. I know I've messaged Face in the past on Facebook Messenger, mm-hmm. And you guys are always, even with everything going on in the store, you guys are always very attentive and very on top of it. And I think it's just a testament to how dedicated you guys are to what you're doing.
Yeah, I think being transparent and being able to be accessible. We are in an industry that has a lot of niche things, product wise, and being able to be accessible and available to our customers. I think that's extremely important. And so, yeah, I try to utilize Discord as much as possible. If anything, I've been using it so much in the past few months. I've been really trying to grind people to, get into the Discord, because like if we're not in the store, I feel like I don't have any power. I don't have any power when I'm not there, and I can't be there every day. But in the Discord, I have access to all these to like our communities, like my customers, right? My players. I have everyone right there. I can talk to them right there. I can advertise right there. I can promote events. I can see what's going on. I can find out if there's a product I should get. I feel like, I don't know why more people don't use this. I think it's just like a win-win. Like, people already use Discord as a way to like communicate with their friends, and again, like, it's a win-win. I just have everything I need right here, and also like, I also like to like play the games that my customers are playing. So like, I've come to like be pretty good friends with a few of our customers, like our Commander players. Like, we went out to Philadelphia in February with a bunch of the Commander guys, but like, we shared rooms, and like, these guys are my boys now. Like, I value them as like good, close, dear friends that I've made over the past 2 years, and they were just random guys coming into my store, and now those guys like are going to be, obviously they're my friends, but they're going to be coming to my store for for forever, and that's, I want to do that. I want to do that times 20. I want to just like have people come in. I want to be friends with them, because I just like making friends with everybody. That's just who I am. I'm a social butterfly, and I want to go hang out. I want to go hang out with them, not at my store too. Like, we've gotten drinks together. We've played Commander at the Blue Point Brewery in Patchogue.
Yes, that's great.
We just want to go hang out and have a good time, and then they buy product from me. It's awesome.
It really is. I think I think you're an ideal person to run a business, because you have the ability to communicate. You have personality. You have you like people. So I think it helps quite a bit. Like, from your standpoint, I mean, the fact that customers developing very close friendships with you, it shows what you're doing is working. And it was the immediate perspective I got right from the get-go. I said, okay, this is a place where I definitely want to go. And even just seeing, I've played you in Magic games, I've played Face, and just to see the owners playing too, that was something I never got to see before, because I know, and sometimes the owners are very busy. They, it's constant stuff, but you guys have a really good system where you're able to balance both. Not like you got into the business because it was obviously a hobby and a passion of yours, but then, as many people know, those passions of something that you started a business of, you kind of maybe don't have the same amount of time that you did at one point, because now the business almost consumes, and the ability to be engaged in it like you used to. It's now just a daily thing where you're just there to serve the customer base. But I like that you guys have found a healthy balance for you all that works, and where you can still engage in it. So you never feel like it's, to me, it doesn't look like it. I know it's work, but it doesn't look like you guys, like it's stressing you guys out to the point where it's like, oh geez, why am I doing this?
Well, if it doesn't look like I'm getting stressed out, good. That's fine.
I would never. I've never.
Let's keep up that facade. But yeah, I mean, like, there's definitely points where I'm like, oh my gosh, dude, I would rather be literally anywhere else than like doing this work, But that's just the type of exhaustion that comes from any type of job. It's not particular to this. But there are definitely a lot of times where I'm like, wow, this place is pretty cool. I've done a pretty good job. There are times that when I close up shop by myself and it's like just me, it's like 1 a.m, closing up, turning the lights off, source clean. I'll do like one of those like look arounds, and I'll do like a nod to myself. I'm like, hell yeah, dude. Like, this is my spot. I'm super proud of what I built. And yeah, like what you said, sometimes it doesn't feel like a job. Sometimes it just feels like I'm just hanging out with my friends, and then I just occasionally ring them up for like a Pepsi. And then, yeah, I'm very blessed and very grateful to have to be able to have this service to provide for my community, while also getting kickbacks from it, as in like being able to just like chill and play games. And yeah, a lot of times I can't. A lot of times I can't play. like on a Tuesday night when it's just like super, super busy, I really won't be able to sit down till like midnight. And like at that point, I got to go home because I have to be up the next morning. So I really, it's not always just I can just come in and sit down and chill. But on Sundays, like Sundays are slower. I work Sundays, and like if we have an odd number for a draft, like I'll throw down and I'll sit in for a draft just to make it an even number, because I don't want to have a player have a bye. I'd rather do the work later just so this other player can just sit down and play. That's important to me. And other than that, though, I try to play as much as I can just because it helps me offload, the stress of work. And it makes it easier to come back, the next day.
Absolutely. Yeah. And now, is this the only thing you do? Do you do the Meta full time, or do you have another job as well?
No, I actually do have a full-time job as well. So the Meta, a lot of times I'm going from job to job. So, I work like 9 hours at my regular job, and then I get up and I go to my store and then work for another like 5-6 hours. So like a lot of times I have weeks where I just like actually don't have a day off. Like on Saturdays and Sundays are my day off from my regular job. But if I have I work every Sunday behind the counter already, and then if I have an event to do Saturday, that means I just don't have a day off, and I'm actually just running around all week. And it can get pretty hectic. It definitely can get pretty hectic. I have lost a lot of sleep. My girlfriend has been yelling at me to be able to find ways to just like get more sleep, because like I've been getting these terrible migraines and headaches lately, just from like exhaustion, and I've actually had to call. This past Monday, I called out of work because like I tried to take like a power nap for like 10-20 minutes, and then I ended up sleeping like 4 hours, and I just had to call out of work that day. Yeah, I was just so shot, and it was just, I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't even realize I was that tired. I didn't feel that tired, but like I guess my body knows better than I do,
Yeah, and there's a part where everybody's body kind of shuts down, like especially when it feels overworked, and you're definitely putting in a lot of hours. I mean, between your full-time job, and I had thought you had told me you had a full-time job. I didn't want to like quote it in case I was wrong, but
no, totally.
Yeah, that's definitely a lot what you're doing, and it's what I'm even impressed by is even when you're at the Meta, you're still always in a good mood. Like it doesn't seem to affect you, and is that just like something you've trained yourself to like just like put like whatever say happened in your regular job, like you just put it out of your mind and you transition into being able to do like your own business of what makes you happy?
I definitely don't think it's something I've trained. If I'm in a bad mood, like everyone will know. It's like, because I'm usually in such a sunny disposition. Like I'm always I got a little tune in my head. I'm always happy to see people. I'm always very well adjusted. That's just how I've been at all my jobs. I just wanted to hey, how you doing? How's it going? What's going on? Nothing? Great. Awesome. See you. And so when I'm in a bad mood or something crappy happened to me that day, like you'll know that I'll be just like more quiet or pissed off looking, but it really doesn't happen that much. Like I'm always just super happy to just be out and go to my store and work, and I think that's just a me thing, to be honest. I've just always been a little chipper dude who's just super happy to see other people. That's really what it is.
For sure. Yeah, I could definitely imagine there were trying days with doing both jobs, and from the standpoint of the Meta, what would a typical day look like there? Like if you were to abstract the your full-time job, what would a regular day look like there? That you're say it's maybe not the Sunday since it's slower, but if it's like a regular day, like we have the pre-release coming up for March of the Machine, what does that like look like in terms of like preparation, in terms of like working with the distributor, like organizing that type of event? Because, from a player standpoint, it obviously looks like very well organized from my standpoint, but I'm sure there's a lot behind the scenes with what you have to do to get something like that to work.
Sure. It's not that crazy. We get automatic emails for like anytime there's new product. Our distributors want to make money. We're getting hounded by our distributors all the time about new products coming out, So it's not crazy work for figuring out how much product we want to get. We just kind of come up with an idea of like, hey, does this set look cool? Sure. What were the numbers for last pre-release? And then from there we kind of figure out how many pre-release kits we want to get. And then from there, I do all the back end of making sure the buttons on the website work and the promotion for it. So like I literally make all the graphics. I make the products on our website. I make sure all the buttons work. I make sure that the web page has the description of the event properly, and that definitely takes a lot of time. But I can bust that out in like 20 minutes. Really, to be honest, I've got it down to like a science. And after that, it's just trickling work. Like orders come in, I go to like my portal, my web page order portal, and I see like people purchasing these tickets. I basically just mark them as fulfilled, and then I add them to the event, and that's it. And then like when the event comes, we just open our boxes. I go to the event link, which is the Wizards like tournament website. I see everyone who's signed up, which means that they paid, and I just call them up and I just hand them a kit, and that's it. It's super, super easy. It's actually a little easier than you think. I think the initial scramble is like doing the Photoshop work and then like doing the marketing campaign. That can be a pain in the butt sometimes, but I enjoy working on Photoshop. So it really doesn't feel that bad, to be honest.
Yeah, as a developer myself, in terms, I do computer programming, but I envy your ability to do graphics. That is not something that's a skill of mine.
None of us were able to do Photoshop. I had to teach myself. I had to teach myself how to use it and how to get down a good style. And like if I go back and look at my old stuff when we first opened up, like, good Lord, do I cringe at like what I made? Because like now I would never make something like that now. It's just so funny to see like the arc of skill. and I came up with a template like last year that I really fell in love with. And it's more of like I could just like, am I making a Magic event or making a Pokemon event? Pokemon? All right, great. I'll just go download some recent Pokemon card images, slap them onto the graphic, uses the same template, that same format. I'll change the font to Pokemon, and that's it. And I'll put the Pokemon logo on there. Bing, bang, boom. And rinse and repeat no matter what game we're doing. Like right now, I've got Photoshop open right now. I'm looking at this Flesh and Blood. It's the same template, like the graphics cut in half with this big triangle. I put a character on there from Flesh and Blood. I change the font, and that's it. It's actually, I can really bust out a graphic in a few minutes from what I made. So it's very helpful to be able to do something that's like rinse and repeat, because you don't really want to get bogged down by these little intricacies. Again, like our industry is so niche. So like, if I have to make some like Super Mario baseball graphic, which is like so odd, but like I can make it in a few minutes just by going on Google and finding some images and some fonts files, and bada bing, got it going.
Yeah, and once you have that system down, you have that, almost like it's like a tempo. It's just like you're in the groove with it because you figured out what works to put it all together, mm-hmm. and you're doing less thinking about it now.
Yes,
and it's more of just you have these processes in place that enable you to be as efficient as you can. This way, you're not having to think about it like maybe say you had to in the beginning.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Yeah, it definitely helps a lot. Less stress for starting events. And it just makes it seamless and makes it easier, which then allows us to make more events. You know what I mean? So
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So when you started doing the events and have them sanctioned Wizards events, I know that goes through the Wizards Play Network, I believe it's called.
Yep, WPN.
And when you go through that process, because I know there's regular WPN and there's WPN Premium. Mm-hmm. I've talked to Face a little bit about this, but I don't know if I've talked to you about it before. I can't recall. But how does the WPN premium process work? Because I know it was something Face was interested in, and I would imagine, are you interested in that too? I know there's a whole process with that, but I'm not really familiar with it.
Yeah, we definitely want to do it. We will not be able to get that done for our current location, just like the way that the state that the floors are in the store. It would take quite a colossal cost to redo the floors to make it happen. So let me back it up. The WPN Premium is a status that your LGS can reach, and it comes with a few perks. Not many perks. I wish there were more. Otherwise, more people would do it. The perks are you have a little premium symbol next to your store on like their store locator search function on their website, and you get allocated a little bit of extra product. That's it. That's like it. So a lot of people really haven't found value in the premium because it is a large task to take on. Essentially they're going to want your store to be like flawless. All your tables have to be the same type. All your chairs have to be the same type. All your garbage cans need to have covers. They're going to send in a secret shopper. You have to have, product stock. You need to have pictures on the wall of the last few sets. There can't be any type of product sitting that's open out on tables or on the floor. There's just a lot of just random things like checklists that you need to have. It's a whole laundry list of things you need to check off. Now, that being said, we plan to have our next location in the next year and a half to be, as we open, we plan to have it a premium store. So like having an existing store and then changing it to or upgrading it to a premium store is definitely a lot harder than just opening a new store with the premium in mind, because we'll just buy the stuff ready to go. And so we are going to definitely be aiming to hit premium for our next location opening up, because we won't have to change anything. We just buy the stuff we need. That's it,
Mm-hmm. And what location are you thinking? Like, what town were you thinking of considering?
That's all to be determined. It's all up in the air. We have a few spots that I can't disclose on just yet, but as the months come in closer, because our release is up pretty soon, and we definitely like to find a spot in the same town or a few towns adjacent, just to be able to keep our existing community until we are able to open up our big location. We have plans to open up a big, like 5,000 square foot spot.
Oh, nice. I'm looking forward to seeing it.
Yeah, people are going to love that. We really want to make a big tournament hall, and really stand out on the island. I think it's going to be really, really cool.
That'll be awesome. I guess my final question on the topic of the WPN store status, if you will. I did some research once into it on my own. I was just curious, and I was like, and I'm sure it's not as glamorous on its face compared to what it is like from your standpoint, from what you know about it. Because I saw something like that they give a WPN premium store like $50,000 to do renovations.
That's not really accurate. So you are able to get a grant from Wizards to be able to do renovations. I think the max caps out at $50,000.
Okay.
But how it works is they give you half of they basically rebate it. So if we need to get the floors done of our store, that's going to cost $11,000. We already had a guy come in and quote us $11,000 to do the floors. That's a huge cost.
Yeah, definitely.
That's like rent for 3 months or 2 months for us. That's insane.
High.
Nobody has that, right? So I have to pay that up front, and then I send the invoice or the receipt to Wizards, and then they rebate it. So like it doesn't really make sense for us right now, because like we don't have that cash on hand to be able to just like throw it at the floor.
Absolutely, yeah.
And so if they did it up front, it would be easier, because then it's less of a cost, less of a overhead. It's not as a crazy cost anymore. But the fact that we initially have to front it, that was like, we really can't do that. We're just not at the spot to be able to make that happen.
Yeah, and is there even a guarantee that they will reimburse it, or is it like, I guess, one of those things you first have to qualify for the premium before they even do it? I guess because it almost seems like they want you to go through the process to show that you're going to do it.
Yeah, definitely. You definitely have to be able to qualify for it. It's very frustrating.
I bet.
It's definitely very frustrating. Yeah,
I can imagine. So yeah, one other thing I wanted to touch on with the store in particular was, and this I thought was just a pretty cool idea, just like outside of the drinks and stuff, but you guys doing food in there too. That was a really, I thought, unique idea into it because, like for myself, outside of Magic, I'm also a big comic book reader. And one of the things I've always thought of just from documentaries I've seen is I was like, oh, I said, I'm surprised they do exist, but I was like, oh, I'm surprised there aren't more comic book stores that have like a coffee shop inside of it or something like that. And I thought you guys do it well, like, which is just having the option for food in there too, because, you know, especially when you have the longer tournaments and stuff, and, you know, people are there for a tournament for 4 or 5 hours at a time, you know, having that option in there, I think is a good idea. And I would imagine with the bigger store, that's something, if you wanted, you could expand upon that.
Definitely. We had originally planned on doing a small cold kitchen in the Meta when we first opened up. However, the location that we landed on already had a coffee shop and like a brunch spot in its shopping center, and due to a non-compete clause, you can't offer similar items or services that another existing business already does. Ergo, we couldn't have a kitchen in our spot in the location, and it wasn't really the biggest idea. It wasn't the biggest deal because we would have had to had paid extra for construction in our store to do the piping, to do piping and plumbing up to the front of the store. So we were like, oh, I guess we just don't have to do that now. So we'll just do the coffee thing later, you know? So we never really built a kitchen that we had planned to, because like my background's food. Like before I opened the Meta, I was working. I was running a vegan cafe on the south shore of the island. You know, making pizzas and sandwiches, and it was a hangout spot. It was a late night hangout spot. So I had the idea. I was like, oh, I wish I could like make like a LAN center with this like type of food. So like you know, the Meta originally had a kitchen in its plant, and I was going to do all these types of cool gaming themed food dishes and I also worked at Starbucks for 5 years, so I was planning on doing a whole like cafe coffee section that you can get all these cool like Magic and well, it wasn't Magic at the time, but it was like League of Legends and like Overwatch and Street Fighter stuff.
Definitely have an extensive culinary background.
Well, yeah, I haven't really. Ever since I stopped working there, like I stopped cooking. So my what do I know anymore? You know. But I definitely plan to dust off that engine in the future. You know.
That's very cool. I just like that was in the plans. I mean, like just to think of, you know, the various specialties that you all have from what Face has and what you have, that marriage of those two backgrounds, from him with the land stuff and then bringing Magic into it, and you with your cooking side, and you know your background with doing all the tech stuff, and it seems to just really work very well. And you both have very similar, you know, personalities where you both get along with everybody, and you know, and just seeing like you guys going through the process of looking for an even bigger place to do some of these other things. I'm very happy for you guys. I think it's excellent.
Well, thank you. We love having you.
I appreciate it.
You are such a joy to be around and have at the store. It's awesome.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I enjoy coming. It's a wonderful time every time I'm there. And I guess as we're approaching an hour here, but one of the other things I wanted to talk to you, which I know is your favorite format to play, is Commander. And it's something I know I've built decks. It's something I know I would like to play more of. I've just never actually really played many Commander games. And I'm curious from your experience, what interests you about Commander the most?
That's a good question. How do I answer this? So, I mean, we've all started playing Magic, like either at a store when we were younger, or like my brother taught me in his apartment upstate in Albany in like 2008. So like Alara had just came out, and like Zendikar was coming out soon. So like I started learning Magic then, and we were just playing with him and his old college buddies, and then he taught my other brother how to play. So me and my brother Kevin, I have a huge family, but that's a story for another time. So my brother Kevin and I we just decided to just play games, at our dining room table, like for forever. Like we just always played like silly games, and then we just like built silly decks, and then we stopped playing Magic. We fell out of it, and then when we got into doing cards at the store, I was like, oh yeah, I forgot, dude. Like I love Magic. Magic's the best. This game is so much fun. But like that 1v1 like silliness didn't exist anymore. It was just all about the 1v1 competitiveness, which wasn't really my cup of tea. And then someone had introduced me to Commander, and I actually really didn't want to play at all. I was like I was like out of it. I was like, no. Even my partner Ryan was just like, come on, like I'll go buy a deck. You pay me back later. And I was like, no, dude, it'll be fine. He's like, come on, it'll be fun. And I was like, all right, fine. So he got me a deck, and then I played it, and then like I really quickly found out, like, oh, this is the silly part. This is the fun, non-competitive thing that Magic has transitioned into. I was like, oh my god, why have I not been playing this sooner? This is so fun. And yeah, like the Commander part is for people who don't want to like grind competitive games, or don't enjoy that 1v1 aspect of Magic anymore. Commander is definitely a new way to engage in the game, and for you to feel that validation of like, yeah, this game still slaps, this game is still great, because Commander is so hilarious. It leads to like the funniest times. You make deals with opponents, you backstab opponents, you make temporary allies. It's just so much fun. And Frank, like you said, we can definitely get you some games going. I can definitely help you build some decks to make some cool Commander decks to keep up at the store. It's a lot of fun.
It's definitely something I want to try. I mean, my initial hesitation to it was, so growing up, I played sports, and I've always been a sports fan, so I was always very competitive. Not competitive in the traditional way you see some people get, where outside of me watching sports, for example, yeah, I'll get frustrated when my team loses or something like that. But me personally playing, even though I'm more competitive with myself, and I was always used to just doing 1v1. And so the thought of now having 3 opponents was kind of daunting to me, until somebody, I don't know who said it to me, but somebody said, you actually don't have to think about it as 3 opponents, because you're not actually needing to pay attention to everything that's going on like you would in 1v1. It was hard to get out of that mindset of thinking of it in that way. And then I know when you make the deals and stuff, when I first heard about it, it was a little off-putting to me. I didn't get it until I started watching the Command Zone podcast, and I started to seeing game nights and seeing people play it. I said, oh, this looks interesting. But I knew then you had to find a play group and find people to play with, and I just never found the right place where I felt comfortable doing it, since I wasn't really familiar with the format. But like, having now been to your store and talking to you all about Magic, and seeing the people who play 1v1 also do Commander, I was like, oh, this seems more of my speed now. Now I think I can wet my toes a little bit.
Yeah, we definitely have a good, healthy community for Commander, and I love all of our guys. I'm so proud of all our guys. We're a very healthy community, and we just want to welcome more players. So we can definitely get you in, sit you down, and get you some good games, bring you up to speed about like what cards are good in Magic. But like, that's also like an awesome thing about Commander, because there's like over 50,000 different Magic cards, right? And like a handful only get to see play, right? Yeah. Commander is an awesome format where you can just like, you can use like this ridiculous card from like Champions of Kamigawa from 2004, and like it's good, and you're like, wait, what is that card? How old is it? How am I I'm being hosed right now from this ridiculous 10-cent card? What is happening? Like that type of,
like me playing Mana Tithe against you in draft.
Oh yeah, that was hilarious. I got so tight. But yeah, totally. Yeah, I mean, people run Mana Tithe in Commander. It's just perfect. It's a joke. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, you're gonna Mana. Okay, fine. You got me good. It's just like, it leads to like these hilarious situations that would never ever happen in a type of in any other format of Magic, you know.
Sure. Yeah, that's one of the things that has led me around to it. I've built a few decks, and just to think of, I was truly one of those players at one point that said, and this was to one of my friends at a previous store I went to, I told him, I said, I'm just not really a fan of tribal in Magic, like playing tribal decks. And he said, you say that now. He says, until the right creature type comes along.
Yes.
And boy, was he right. When dogs became a thing, I was immediately like, okay, now I know when I'm building, and I've since built the zombie one too. And I was like, oh my goodness. I said, here I am eating my own words. I was like, but it was kind of that eye-opening thing for me with Commander in particular. I was like, oh, this card I wouldn't play anywhere else. But in Commander, I said, you could do whatever you want.
Totally. Yeah. I had the similar thing. I was like, oh, tribal, everyone's doing tribal. Everyone's making elves, like everyone's making dragons, yawn. I don't want to do that. And then I saw there was, I don't know what it is, but there was like a legendary creature that cared about monks. And I was like, oh my God, monks. That's so awesome. I love the whole idea of like, think of like Jedis mixed with like the temples, but like Eastern martial arts, right? So like I love that whole type of Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, all those martial art movies. I love that. So that whole high fantasy of like monks, like Avatar: The Last Airbender, right? Those guys, I was like, oh my God, that's what I want to live in. Like, that's my fantasy. So a whole tribal that cares about monks, I was like, sign me up. I want to make a deck about that. That's my jam and jelly.
That's really cool. It's amazing how Magic can do that. Like, I truly try to think about it, and I don't know of any other game, because I am not like a video game player really anymore, outside of maybe playing Magic Online or MTG Arena. In general, I'm not really a video game guy anymore. That kind of left me when after my it probably left me after college. So I don't really play much video games anymore. But Magic, on the other hand, seems to always have that replayability, that making you come back to it. Something cool comes out. Like, I get excited for new cards all the time. It really is fascinating when you think about it. And I'm sure just as an owner of a store too, like, because like prior to you having the store, like it was just you and, you would go to the store that you went to at the time, and you're almost alone with your own thoughts about, your excitement with something. But like, I'm sure even like seeing it from all the other players, because I think it's really cool seeing how excited people get, even at your store, like with pre-releases or even draft and stuff. It's you'll learn about a card or something that you wouldn't even pay attention to yourself.
Totally. Yeah. Definitely. I mean, that's perfect. Totally.
Yeah. So I think the final question here that I was going to wrap it up with, as my brain kind of just melted in itself, because I was going to ask you about how it was going to you went to the MagicCon event.
Oh yeah, definitely,
in Philly. How did that all go?
That was such a cool experience, man. Let me tell you. I actually wasn't even planning on going. I had won free tickets like on some Twitter giveaway. I got very lucky.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I had won a full weekend pass on Twitter, and then we were splitting a hotel room with three other guys. So there's four of us. So like the cost of the trip was so low. I was like, oh my God, I gotta go. It was so awesome. Like, it didn't break my bank at all. It actually left me with extra spending cash to like go buy cards there.
That's the best of both worlds.
Totally. Yeah, man. Like, we had such an awesome event. There's a Commander player. You probably know him, Devin. We've been chasing these two cards for our own Commander decks. There was a time when we had built a whole pod of the Planeswalkers that flip, the baby ones that flip, like the Challenger that flips into the Planeswalker. They're from like the Magic Origins. So we had made a whole pod of commander decks with those decks. We're like, so I made a Chandra deck. It's Chandra Tribal, and Devin made Liliana Tribal. Someone else made Nissa, and then someone else made Jace. So we did a 4-player pod of those. So we just had a blast. But Devin and I were the only 2 people that actually kept our decks. We enjoyed them so much. We're like, wow, like I'm going to keep this as like one of my legacy decks. A legacy commander deck. Like this is like I'm never going to take this apart. This deck is like going to be symbolic with me. This is awesome. I'm having so much fun time. So having that, and that was like 2 years ago already. So we've been like upgrading it and blinging the deck out. And one of the things that we had came across was we're like, oh, there are San Diego Comic-Con exclusive cards that we wanted to pick up for our commander, but they're so wildly expensive. And we've just been talking about like, if you do it, I'm going to do it, and then like, I'm like, oh, I'm going to do it. I'm going to buy it online, but we never got around to doing it. But when we went to Philadelphia, those 2 cards were right next to each other at the same booth. And Devin and I looked at each other. We're like, we're doing it,
yeah, it's one of those, what are the chances?
Yeah,
like you have to.
It was meant to be. And like him and I were so happy that we were there together to be able to purchase these cards, because we've been talking about it for a year, and it was such a fun moment to be able to like, there it is, man, like we're gonna do it. And we still talk about it, I mean, obviously it was only in February, but still, like every few weeks we're like,
it's a great story.
Yeah, it's fantastic. We're very proud of like holding out to be able to get those cards. But the event itself was awesome. Like I just played Commander all week. I played games with random people from all over the East Coast. I met people from Ohio, Illinois. I met people from Jersey, from Virginia, the city. It was awesome. I had so much fun. There was a game that I won that went on for like an hour and a half that I legitimately popped off when the game won, when I won it, because it was such a slogfest. But it was all with these just like random people that I had met at that event. And it was so cool. Everyone there was just having a great time. Like, yeah,
that's cool.
It was awesome. I highly recommend you going with just a few friends, but then like going out to go meet some more friends. I got people's. I'm like, I was also looking at network. I was like, hey, I got a shop. Like here's my card. I was also looking at network as well, and me being wanted to make friends with everyone. It was a win-win. It was awesome.
That sounds like a great time. It's definitely something I want to do myself one of these days. I thought that would have been like a good chance for me to go with the one in Philly, but I've kind of wondered, this is kind of like on a tangent of my own mind, but they don't really do Magic events in New York, it seems like of that scale. I wish they would.
Yeah, they're very weird. It's not even Magic that does it. They contract other companies to do their conventions.
Right.
Who did this one? ReedPop was the company. They do Comic-Con too. So they probably just have like a quota they have to meet, and they give this company everything that they need to run their event. They're like, just do our things, and then ReedPop takes it from there. And yeah, that was like the biggest thing that I heard from like our guys about the MagicCon. They're like, how come there's not one in the city, dude? Like I would be there all the time. I didn't have a good answer for that. So yeah,
it is quite fascinating though, isn't it? How many people play this game? Like like on Long Island, like when we're at the Meta, or just in general. I mean, out in Suffolk County, it's it's the suburbs, and it's like we're in our own little silo out here, and it's just amazing how widespread that this game and how many people play it is across the world. It boggles my mind sometimes.
Yeah. We live in Long Island, so there's like 8 million people here, and there's a lot of them play Magic. A lot of them used to play Magic too back in the day, so it's not even there's a lot of people actively playing and a lot of people that have played it. Like there's a dad that'll come into my store with his kids, and they just check, like they're waiting for their table at the coffee shop next door. And they'll come in and just be looking around like, oh yeah, wow, I used to play this back in the day. Like, what are the new sets now? I'll tell him. He's like, oh wow, that's crazy, and then I'll leave. But like, they're definitely like, but that doesn't matter. That was still a good visit. Customer comes in, reminisces how fun Magic used to be for him. Maybe
It's great that they remember
Totally.
it too. You know, that it still was a memory in
Yeah,
his
and
mind.
maybe at this particular customer, like you really can't, commit time to game. He's got other priorities in his life, which I totally understand, and more respect to him. But like that quick 1 minute conversation might be the catalyst that he needs to like go pick up a pre-con, or or find free time in his schedule like once a month to be able to come down and hang out. And that's all it takes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, just to have that, that like me time, like to be able to like to just have like that getaway, like it may rekindle, wanting to do something
Totally.
again.
I know, I've seen it happen. It happens all the time.
Yep, I know, like you said earlier, I've had my moments with Magic where I've been away from it for a period of time, and then I've come back because it was always, just a part of what I like doing. So it's definitely got that grasp. Well, Chris, this I really appreciate you taking the time to do this. This was an absolute pleasure getting to talk to you about the store and just talking Magic with you. It's always an enjoyable time getting a chit chat.
Definitely, Frank. Likewise, man. This has been awesome.
All right. Well, I will certainly be seeing you at the store again soon, and thanks again for coming on.
My pleasure. All right. I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Take care. I want to thank Christopher again for coming on the show, and thank you all for listening as well. If you enjoyed the show, please join our newsletter at thematchslip.com/newsletter, where I'll instantly be giving you guys a discount coupon generously provided by Christopher from the Meta. You'll also have access to the Match Slip Journal, an op-ed column where I share my personal reviews of the game stores I visit in the U.S. In addition, if you subscribe, you'll have the opportunity, if interested, in writing a guest article to our email list showcasing your local game store. And with that said, we'll talk to you next time.